Hi, this is Robert Poole. Today I want to talk to you about in sales, the sales process. How do we change beliefs? Because beliefs are really what drive people to do things, and even more so the identity. We'll talk about that. But in the sales process, beliefs are so strong that I think I heard Russell Brunson say, if we need to focus on and find that one belief. If they believe that, then they almost have to buy from us. And that's really what we want to try to get to. So, of course, the question is, how do we do that? And let's start with some basics, definition. First of all, so we're on the same page. What is a belief? A belief is simply, how we personally view the world, how we view things, because different things mean different, people have different beliefs. So things, one person can look at something and believe something about that, and another person can look at the same thing and believe something different. So all our beliefs are individual. If you think about it in extreme examples, if a child for some reason is, abused and yet they're told that they're loved at the same time, sometimes that carries over to adulthood, and somebody can, be violent with them, and that psychologically means that that person loves them, which of course is a completely false belief, but it doesn't matter whether to that person it's a real belief. And it's like anything. We all know, that different things mean different things to people, or different beliefs mean different things to different people. Our beliefs change, over time, depending on our experiences. And that's why people have vastly different beliefs about, things like politics or life or whatever. But again, beliefs are, how we personally view the world. Not everybody else, just us. But what's even stronger than beliefs? Identity. And identity is really a sort of a collection of beliefs. I remember years ago, I think it was in a Tony Robbins book, he talked about this concept of a table, and it's got four legs. And if you picture the four legs as beliefs, if you can knock out one leg, one belief, and change that, the table is maybe a little rocky, whatever. But you knock out that second belief, bam, the table will start to fall over, and you get rid of the other two legs, and of course you don't have a table anymore. So it's about chipping away with those beliefs if you want to change something, want to change somebody's identity. And so, what is identity? Identity is really how we view ourselves. Think about what's an example of that. Think about, if you've ever seen on the news when Apple puts out a new iPhone, new iPad, whatever, there are people who are camped out, 3 days before in front of the store and stay there because they want to be one of the first to get it. Those people are, let's face it, those are people who are fanatical about Apple products or iPhones, whatever. And, so they have such an incredible belief in that product that they actually view themselves as an iPhone user or whatever, and trying to sell that person, an Android phone. Good luck with that, because their beliefs and their identity are wrapped up in it. They view themselves as that. So identity is viewing yourself as a certain type of person. I'm a conservative. I'm a liberal. I'm a Ford person. I'm a Chevy person. I'm a sports person. I'm a whatever. And its identity is how we view ourselves. And so if we can change somebody's, not only their beliefs, but change their identity so that their new identity says, we're going to use your product like, I'm changing their identity to a user of, whatever service or product I'm trying to sell, then suddenly that's where you get fanatical, customers who will go out and, refer you business, tell all their friends, and, the raving fans, so to speak. And so that's what we really want. And, so this is great, but the question is, how do we do that? So I wanted to illustrate that through where'd my eraser thing go? Through a story that if you've in Western culture, depending on your upbringing and thing, you might have been to Sunday school as a kid or whatever, the whole story of Adam and Eve. I'm gonna read some things directly, so stick with me. You don't have to be religious. This is not a podcast in the Bible or whatever, but this is a great illustration. And it's one of, I like to say, an example of, Satan, the OG of marketing and changing beliefs, because it's a stark example of how you can easily do that. So I'm going to read these exactly. So pay attention to the wording here, because we're going to talk about how wording changes beliefs. So in Genesis 2:16, it says, "And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree in the garden you may freely eat, but the tree of knowledge of good and evil you should not eat, for in the day that you eat of it you surely die." Then just to skip forward, Genesis 3:1 says, "Now the serpent," i.e. the devil, "was more crafty than any other beast of the field that the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, did God actually say, you shall not eat of any tree in the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. But God said, you shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that's in the midst of the garden, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. But the serpent said to the woman, you shall surely not die, for God knows that when you eat, your eyes will be open and you'll be just like God, knowing good and evil." So when the woman saw the tree was good for food, and that it was delight to the eyes, and that the tree was desired to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate, and she also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate. So, again, this is not a Bible lesson, but I want to go back and look at some of the words here, because you'll see how easily the devil changed the beliefs of Eve in this to get her to do something that he wanted her to do, in this case for nefarious purposes, but it's an example of how we change beliefs that can be used in sales. So, originally, so what did God originally said? He said you can freely eat from every tree in the garden. And so what's that? When somebody says freely, obviously that means no cost, no effort, whatever. And every means, you can have as many as you want. So, think about somebody who takes you to a car lot and they said, hey, you can freely have every car in the lot you want. I mean, that means you could pick out 20 cars if you wanted to. And so what happens? So Satan comes along and he says, to Eve, hey, did God really say that you can't eat from, or that you can eat from any tree in the garden? And then you noticed when he says that he changed freely and he changed every to any, and he also knocked out freely. So he went from every to any, i.e. as many as you want, to one, any is one, freely, no cost, to just completely wiped it out. And so he changed the wording in such a subtle way, because if you don't pay attention to the word, you don't catch that. But, by asking a question, he got the prospect, in this case, Eve, to say, and so she had to kind of think about it. And then even more important, he kind of had her repeat it, because, we don't want to be told how to change our beliefs, what to do. We want to make somebody think that it's our idea. We as humans, we got to feel like it's our idea to do something. So he knew that she would have to decide, to change her beliefs. And the way to do that is by asking a question, because she can't help but answer it. So, and so what does she say? She kind of repeats back what she was thinking, which is, oh yeah, God said not to eat from this tree, and he said not to touch it, which is not true. If you remember the original quote, he didn't say anything about not touching it. But she kind of added that because she got kind of confused, because she was trying to articulate what the belief was. And sometimes when somebody says, what their belief is out loud, they kind of realize, oh, that maybe doesn't make much sense, and then so Satan used a powerful way to do that in order to get Eve to question her own beliefs by saying them out loud. And then, of course, he suggested, a new belief that, hey, the only reason God told you not to eat off of this tree is because, he gave the impression that he's kind of stingy and he doesn't want you to be like him. He doesn't want you to be your own God, i.e. know what's right and wrong and be able to choose what's right and wrong. And so she basically said, again, she thought about it. And she thought, well, I could be like God, i.e. she could change her identity through this new change in beliefs. And so he was able to shift her beliefs from, I shouldn't do this, to, this is a good idea to do this. And I'm now this new person because I can take on this new identity. And so it's a powerful illustration, and she even took it further. She justified it to herself by, giving the fruit to Adam, right away. A lot of times, as we know, they say misery loves company and all that kind of stuff. And, it's a lot easier as humans if we have other people doing the same thing with us. It gives us comfort that we're making the right decision. So immediately what she gives the fruit to Adam to help him go along with it. The first referral that, you hear about. And so what's the sort of the outline here? If we're going to take something away from this, how do we apply this to, sales and marketing in particular? Well, first we have to know what the existing belief is. So again, it goes back to the Russell Brunson thing of what's the one belief that we need them to have in order to buy. And, and the way you figure that out is, what is the belief now and what is the belief that they need to have? So we need to find out what their existing belief is. And then we need to question it. And this isn't one of those things that, this is a pretty blatant example of, Satan basically questioning exactly, asking her a question, is this really true? Sometimes that'll get resistance. So maybe a better way to do it is story, like we've talked about in other videos. Tell a story about a third party and how they started to question their own beliefs and how they started doing this. That way it's not a direct attack on that person, and you don't get that defense that immediately comes up and says, whoa, whoa, whoa. But if it's a third party, it's somebody else, then they kind of can see themselves and see that belief moving, but it's not really personal to them, so they don't feel attacked. So we get them to question it through story by saying, this person went through this process, used to believe this, saw these factors or whatever, and now believes this, and this is how happy they are afterwards. And then of course, in that same way, we want to suggest a new belief. Just like Satan suggested that, hey, not only are you not going to die like God said you would, but you're going to be like him, and you're going to have this whole new identity as to be your own God, basically. Pretty good deal. And so we need to do the same thing. Again, best way to do that is through story, to suggest, what's their life going to be like after they change their beliefs, after they take on this new identity. And then finally, is justification. And this is technically not marketing. This is more like sales. It's the actual reason to do something. But a lot of times we need to justify things to ourselves, justify things to others. And so what's the easiest way, again, to do that is to grab somebody else and sell them on it, So getting somebody to make a referral right away or including somebody else in the decision or whatever can often give them the confidence that they're doing the right thing. So if we can change the beliefs and ultimately change the identity, like I said, they almost have to buy from us. And, of course, this all assumes that we've got a good product and service, or you shouldn't be selling it to start off with, and you believe that this is the right decision for the product or for the prospect. We got to help them shift those beliefs, because usually these existing beliefs are not accurate. People come with preconceived notions, so to speak. They'll view your service, view your product in an erroneous way. They don't have all the facts that you do. So it's your job, and my job is in sales, is to help them change those beliefs to something that's actually accurate and change that identity. And again, that's a fantastic way to sell, because this is also how it makes them enjoy the sales process and enjoy the buying process right at the end, and walk away from the sale going, wow, this is great. I feel great about it because I've taken on this new identity. So I hope this is helpful. Please rate and subscribe, like this video, and subscribe to the channel, all that good YouTube-y stuff. And I will talk to you in the next video.